Oh, g'day. I'm Mark from Self-Sufficient Me, and before I get back into chopping down our orchard quite severely, I thought I'd give you my 5 best things about quitting my job or dropping out of the workforce all those years ago. What were the main benefits that we got as a family out of me leaving my military career to become a home dad? Let's get into it. Number 1 is children. Of course, it's always think of the children. And that's become a bit of a cliche or a funny meme or a funny saying, but it couldn't be more truer today than it was years ago. In fact, it's probably even worse today. When I first left the military in 2008, we were in a financial crisis. The world was going south very quickly. There was a lot of turbulence. It was considered by a lot of my friends and family that what we were doing was a very stupid thing. One of us to leave the workforce, which was me, go to one salary at a time when the whole world was seemingly struggling and it was going to get worse. But we were thinking differently at that moment in time. We were wondering how long as a family unit we were going to last before we got a divorce, split the family up, had major disruption in our lives, went under anyway, even though we were earning 2 good salaries. For us, it got to a point where we weren't really thinking about the financial aspects of it anymore. We were so desperate for a new life and to slow life down a bit and make life a bit easier, especially for the children, that financially we were done with worrying about money. We just wanted a slower and better lifestyle for our children. I mean, I think it's quite possible that me leaving the workforce saved our marriage in the long term, for sure. But what was immediately apparent was how it saved our children. We no longer had to drop them off at childcare in the early hours of the morning. Sometimes it was darkness when we were putting them in the childcare centre, handing them over to practically strangers for them to rear them all day without us. It was traumatic, especially for the younger one. He never really liked going to childcare. And then, you know, you'd be picking them up at dark because Nina and I both had very time-consuming jobs. Nina was running a medical centre. I was a squadron sergeant major at the time. We were very busy, so we didn't have a lot of time for the kids, and we were relying on the system to look after them for us. So that we could have a shitty life and be busy all the time and have no time for anything else, our health, our marriage, and just so that we could hold on to our mortgage. I don't know, it just never made sense to us. I don't know where you guys are watching me from around the world, but here in Australia, childcare is always in the news. And it's normally in the news for the worst reasons. It's either that there's not enough childcare centres to look after the children, and so there's long waiting lists, or there's poorly trained people that are looking after the kids, or the kids are getting abused physically and that type of thing, or even worse, they're getting like that cockatoo said, which has been a few of them in the media lately. And I'm not going to go into it because this video will just get flagged. But personally, I just could not think or fathom putting, children in childcare. That was a spider that was crawling up me, cutting down all these trees. I tell you what, it's got all the creepy crawlies out. And if you're not liking creepy crawlies, don't be heavily pruning your orchard, I tell you. Anyway, it has to be done. And I'll tell you all about that in that video when I bring it to you. So if you're wondering, you're just going to have to wait for that video. But back to the childcare thing. At the end of the day, I got out of the army in 2008. And although it was a struggle financially, initially anyway, a big struggle. It wasn't easy at all, robbing Peter to pay Paul, dropping down on one salary. The biggest plus out of it was the children being able to have that stable lifestyle. And I feel like we've brought up 2 boys which is hard as it is, that are very stable, they're kind, they're good-hearted, well-balanced. You know, they've got good masculinity as well as a nice caring type of personality as well. They're not afraid of work and they're just good people. They think of others. And I really think that us raising our boys at home and having one parent at home, ideally, I personally think ideally it's best that the mother stays home, but it wasn't the case with us. Nina was more career orientated than I was, and she really thrives off being in the workforce, and she wanted to improve and better her career, and that was her main goals. Although of course she cared about the children, but she didn't feel like she wanted to be a home mum. So that's why I took on the role. And every family's different, but in our case it was me who done this. Number 2 is mental health and well-being. I had done 21 years in the military. I was sick of people telling me what to do. I was sick of being nearly done over a few times, more than once. And I didn't want to push my luck anymore. I'd been on 3 different operations overseas, and it was time for me to bow out of the workforce. I loved the army. I really did enjoy everything about it. I loved the fitness side of things. I loved how it pushed me, it made me the man I am, or it helped to. And I did like the humanitarian side of it as well. With all my injuries and with the mental pressures that came with it and PTSD, it was the right time for me to leave before, it got worse. What I found was getting outdoors, of course, being a home dad, looking after my boys was good fun and relaxing, but I wasn't going to sit inside and change nappies and watch sitcoms or something like that. I wanted to utilise the land that we purchased. Obviously, you know the story if you've been following me for a long time. This land here, the small 3-acre block, we turned into a self-sufficiency farm, so to speak, so that we could supplement our food from what we grew on our property. And that, to a large extent, saved us from going under. But I don't want to dwell on that in this video because that's been sort of done and dusted, and I've talked about self-sufficiency and money savings through growing your own food a lot. So I don't want to cover all of that now. But what I do want to talk about is the inadvertent health effects it had on me. I thought leaving the military, and it did, would give me a break from the pressures of the workforce and in particular the army. That was good, but I still had a lot of baggage. I wasn't getting any therapy. I didn't really know what to do about that. I wasn't interested in going and claiming anything through DVA, Defence Veteran Affairs, or anything like that. I was sort of done with defence. But what this garden and property did for me was amazing. There was a study done just last week here in Australia, a major study on the health benefits of eating vegetables. I always thought that it was me getting outside, getting outdoors, and gardening sort of zenned me out, and that helped my mental health. And it does. But apparently, eating vegetables, like a good 3 to 4 serves if you're a male, a little bit higher apparently, 5 or so serves if you're a female, significantly enhances your mental health in a good way. It helps you. So I didn't really think about the eating of it. I know eating healthy and good food is good for you, so it should help your mind as well. Healthy body, healthy mind. Doesn't always work like that though. But I didn't realise that mentally eating veggies did give you better mental health, and apparently it does. Number 3 is more time for domestic chores. When you've got just one person focusing on the home duties, you don't have to compete with the other half in who's going to do the dishes, who's going to do the washing. If you've got 2 people working, it's usually the woman that is doing the extra duties as well. So they're working often twice as hard. I mean, maybe in the modern household, what do I know? But I certainly know that in the olden days, women were working as well, or they were working part-time, but they were also doing the lion's share of the house duties. Here, I would admit that my wife was doing most of the washing and the dishes and all that, and I was doing a lot of the outside garden maintenance and mowing the lawns and fixing things as best I could, and that's how we kind of split the duties up. But once I left the workforce and could concentrate on the home front, it really changed things, because that was my sole thing to worry about. And it wasn't a worry. It was very refreshing to be able to get up, take the kids to school, drop them off, do the housework, do the washing, do the ironing, do the cleaning, get a meal on, start preparing dinner for that night. And then if I've got time, which I often did, get outside, do some gardening, grow some food, sow some seeds, harvest some crops for dinner. And then by the time Nina got home, all she had to do was pretty much put her feet up and get served a nice, lovely home-cooked dinner, which I still pretty much do most nights these days, even though I am now also working full-time and very busy. But back then, that was my sole job, was to maintain the household. And that took a lot of pressure off Nina, which brings me to number 4, allowing the person that's at work, which in this case was my wife, the ability for her to concentrate on her job and not worry about the home front hardly at all, except what she wants to do, and that's maybe interact with the children, interact with me, tell me about her day, and let things spill out so that she could wind down without having to be stressed at home. And you know what happened? Well, her career, now in the civilian workforce, not in the army anymore, she was able to concentrate on her job and then start getting promoted, and she started improving her income as a result of it, which meant our household income increased. And over time, 5 or 6 years, she was able to get herself in a position where she was not only enjoying her work, but she was bringing in a whole lot more than what she was earlier on. In other words, our financial position as a household increased probably as good as, if not better, actually probably better than if we were both working. I'm not saying everyone should do what we did. I'm just telling you our story, so I want to be very clear on that. And the last best thing that came out of me leaving the workforce was the ability for me to learn new skills at my own pace, which was gardening and growing fruit trees, growing vegetables, social media, blogging. I started blogging then in 2011, and I started my YouTube channel 14 years ago, can you believe it, in 2011. Some of you still follow me today that were following me all the way back then. I didn't earn any money out of YouTube for 5 or so years, not a cent, but I was learning skills that I would not have been able to do, that I actually really enjoyed. Not saying, again, that I didn't enjoy my military career, and I learnt a lot of great skills there that helped me in my new career, being a YouTuber, but I was able to follow my hobbies and my dreams without having to work at the same time in a job that I wasn't happy with anymore, if you know what I mean. And because I was able to then focus on my new career and develop a successful media business in social media, I was able to now make a living and help now the family income get boosted again through what I earn doing what I do, which is still amazing and surreal, sharing my journey with you guys. So those were my top 5 or best things that happened to me quitting my job and dropping out of the workforce back in 2008. And looking back on it now, you reckon that I regret it? Yeah, no way. I don't regret it. My wife doesn't regret it. Our relationship is fantastic. Our boys are terrific. They still live with us, but one works for us, the other one is going on his own path and studying and learning skills. But they're just, I think our family overall are balanced, we're happy, and it's because, dare I say it, I don't want to be a big head or anything, it's because we had the courage to follow our plan, regardless of what anyone else said, We followed our plan, our feelings, our journey, and we won in the end. So yeah, that's that. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you give it a big follow your dreams thumbs up. That's a bit corny to say follow your dreams. Just have the courage, maybe, to do what you want to do. Life's short, I know that. And, you know, sometimes they're big decisions, but if you sit on the fence, you go nowhere. If you make a decision, it might go wrong, but at least you know, and you can always correct course. As a spider just climbed up the camera there, so I better get him off soon. Thanks for watching, bye for now, cheers.